My name is Tessa, and for most of my life I believed the biggest threat to my happiness was bad luck. I thought misfortune hunted me, wrong job, wrong relationships, wrong timing. But it wasn't bad luck. It was my mother. I didn't know that then. I didn't know she was capable of the kind of darkness that hides behind polite smiles and phrases like, "I only want what's best for you." If I had known, I never would have trusted her with something as fragile as my pregnancy. I found out I was pregnant on a Thursday morning. That seems like an insignificant detail, but I remember it because Thursdays were always mom days. The day she came over unannounced with some excuse like, "I was just in the area," even though she lived 45 minutes away. It's funny how people who want control always find reasons to be around you. When the test turned positive, 2 lines sharp and undeniable, I sat on the bathroom floor, my hand shaking. I whispered, "Oh my God, I'm pregnant," and the sound of my own voice startled me. There was no fear in it, just wonder, just hope. The father, Adrian, had been my boyfriend for almost a year. He was kind, steady, everything my life had never been. When I told him, he froze for 2 seconds, then his eyes softened and he whispered, "We're having a baby." And for the first time in my life, I felt chosen, really chosen. But that Thursday, when my mother happened to show up early, the test still drying on the counter, I made the first mistake of the story you're about to hear. I let her in. She noticed it instantly. Mothers do. Real mothers do anyway. "What's wrong? You look pale," she said. "I have news," I replied, and I felt the weight of my future in those words. Her eyes narrowed like she already knew, like she had been waiting for this. Not pregnancy," she said, and she laughed the kind of laugh people use when they're hopping they're wrong. "Yes," I whispered. For 3 seconds she was silent, completely still, and then everything shifted. Her smile tightened, her shoulders squared, she became calculating. "Who's the father?" "You know who, Adrian." And then she said the quote that became the spark, the trigger that started everything. "No one is going to believe you, Tessa." It slashed through the air, so sharp it made me step back. "What does that mean?" I asked. But she didn't answer. Instead, she walked around my living room, touching things, straightening pillows, pretending she hadn't just said something so cruel. "I'm just concerned," she said. "You've always been dramatic, emotional. People might think the pregnancy isn't real." I blinked. Why would anyone think that? She sighed like she was burdened by my existence. "Because of your history." That was her favorite thing to weaponize, my past, my anxiety, my moments of depression, my years of trying to be stable while she whispered behind my back, "She's fragile. She needs supervision." But this was different. This was targeted. And I didn't understand why. Not then. Within a week, whispers started. Small ones, subtle ones. Cousins texting, "Hey, your mom told me you might be confused about something. What's going on?" Aunties calling, "Your mother said you're dealing with stress, honey. Just checking on you." And then the kicker, my best friend Layla, sending a voice note. "Your mom said you think you're pregnant, but the tests were wrong." I stared at my phone like it was glitching. I confronted my mother immediately. "You're telling people I'm lying," I demanded. "I never said that," she replied calmly, stirring sugar into her tea. "I just told them you weren't sure yet." "But I am sure. I showed you the test." She gave me a pitying look. "Sweetheart, a drugstore test doesn't mean anything." She was convincing. Too convincing. My mother could manipulate a priest into confessing sins he didn't commit. I left her house shaking with anger, but I still didn't see the pattern forming. The real turning point came 3 weeks later at a family dinner I didn't want to attend. Adrian came with me. He insisted on supporting me through the weird tension I couldn't explain. We walked in and immediately felt eyes on us, probing, judging, suspicious. My older brother, Mark, greeted Adrian awkwardly and whispered to me, "Mom said you're struggling mentally again." I nearly dropped the plate I was holding. "What?" I hissed. "Why is she saying that? I'm pregnant." He shrugged. "She says you're imagining it." Before I could respond, my mother appeared behind me. "Dinner is served," she announced, smiling wide. But that smile vanished the moment Adrian said, "We're excited for the baby." The entire room paused, and my mother delivered her dagger. "There is no baby." People gasped. I felt heat rush to my face, my vision blurred. "Mom, what are you doing?" She stepped forward and said, in a voice loud enough for every person to hear, "Tessa, you told me you faked this pregnancy to keep Adrian. Please don't drag this out." The room erupted. I think my soul left my body for a second. I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. Adrian stood frozen beside me. "You're lying," I whispered. My mother wiped a fake tear. "Sweetheart, we all love you. We just want you to get help." And in that moment, something inside me cracked, quietly, cleanly, like a bone that finally gives under pressure. They say betrayal by a stranger hurts, but betrayal by the woman who gave you life, that's a wound that never closes. Adrian grabbed my hand and pulled me outside before I collapsed. We sat in the car, and I sobbed into my palms while he held me tightly. "Why would she do that?" I asked. "I don't know," he replied through clenched teeth. "But I believe you and will prove it." That was the moment the revenge seed was planted. Not spiteful revenge, not petty revenge, a revenge born from survival. A revenge born from a daughter who finally realized her mother wasn't just toxic. She was dangerous. Over the next 2 months, the situation turned into a nightmare I couldn't wake from. My mother told everyone I was lying, that I was unstable, that I was acting pregnant for attention. Every week, another rumor would reach me. "She said you're taking fake ultrasound photos from Google. She said you admitted you weren't sure Adrian was the father. She said you're fabricating symptoms." Fabricating. Like my nausea wasn't real, like my fatigue wasn't real, like my growing belly wasn't real. But the worst came when Adrian's mother, who had always been kind to me, called him crying. "Your girlfriend is playing you," she said. "Her mother told me everything." I was losing everyone. Reputation is fragile, and once someone plants doubt, it spreads like mold. Adrian believed me, but even he started asking gentle questions. Should we do an early ultrasound, just to have proof? Proof of my own truth, proof of my own body. It was humiliating. Still, I agreed. But when we got to the clinic, we learned something that set the tone for the rest of this nightmare. My mother had already been there. She had called pretending to be me, asking about my appointment, and suggesting I might be confused about my dates. The receptionist frowned. She said you two were working through a misunderstanding. I felt sick. My own mother was sabotaging my prenatal care. That's when Adrian said the words that shifted everything. "We're doing a DNA test at birth." Not because he doubted me, but because the world needed to doubt her. He squeezed my hand and whispered, "This story ends with truth." I didn't know what would happen by then. I didn't know how deep my mother's plan went. I didn't know what she really wanted. But the first hints came in the form of anonymous messages sent to Adrian. Messages that said, "Ask her why her mom says the baby isn't yours. DNA doesn't lie. She's using you." We traced the number. It was a burner registered under a name my mother had used before, a name she thought I didn't remember. She wanted us to break up. She wanted me alone. She wanted control over something that wasn't hers. But she wasn't prepared for the fact that I had finally found someone willing to fight with me instead of against me. I wasn't prepared either for what we were about to uncover. The real reason she needed the pregnancy to be a lie. The real reason she wanted the world to believe I was unstable. The real reason she needed everyone to think I couldn't be trusted. It wasn't about me. It was about her. Her image, her secrets, her plan. And the first crack in that secret showed itself the night I found a letter in my mother's old coat pocket. A letter I wasn't meant to see. I didn't go to my mother's house with the intention of snooping. I went because she had called earlier that day pretending, again, to be a normal parent. "Tessa, sweetie, I made some soup. I know pregnancy is hard on your stomach. Come get some. I almost said no, almost. But a part of me, the daughter part, the part she trained since childhood to crave her approval, still wanted to believe she could be kind. Adrian didn't want me going alone. She's manipulating you, he warned. She's still my mother, I replied. He drove me there but waited in the car. If anything feels off, call me, he said. It will be fine, I lied. When I walked into her house, everything smelled like nostalgia. Lavender cleaner, her old vanilla candles, the scent of carpet that's absorbed years of secrets. She served me soup, asked shallow questions about my cravings, my fatigue. Polite, measured, too measured. It felt like a performance. At one point, she got a call and stepped into her bedroom to take it. I heard her voice shift, colder, businesslike. No, she still thinks I believe her. A pause. I told you the timing has to be perfect. I froze. The spoon slipped from my hand and clattered into the bowl. Perfect timing for what? I stood, moving quietly toward the hallway. Her voice lowered, but I caught fragments. Can't risk her interfering. Adrian will leave eventually. DNA test won't matter. DNA test. She was planning something that would make the truth irrelevant. When I heard her chair scrape, I rushed back to the table, pretending everything was normal. She returned smiling, all softness again. I couldn't look at her. I should get going, I said. So soon? She asked, her eyes narrowing with that familiar suspicion. I'm tired, the baby, she cut me off. Let's not play this game again, Tessa. Game, she called my pregnancy a game. I left. Adrian saw my face the moment I reached the car. What happened? I don't know, I whispered. But something is wrong, something is really wrong. 2 nights later, I returned for a reason that felt stupid at the time. My mother had accidentally worn my scarf home a week earlier. I wanted it back. But the truth, I think I wanted to see if the dread I felt was real or if I was becoming paranoid, like she wanted everyone to believe. She wasn't home. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I told myself I'd just grab the scarf from the closet and leave. I still had my spare key from when she used to ask me to water her plants. I shouldn't have had it, I shouldn't have used it, but I did. Inside, the house felt colder than usual, silent in a way that made my skin prickle. I found the scarf quickly, but when I turned to leave, a drawer in the hallway caught my attention, slightly open, like someone had rushed away and forgotten to close it. I don't know why I walked toward it. Curiosity, instinct, fear. Inside were old bills, greeting cards, junk, nothing unusual. But tucked underneath the pile was something that didn't belong. A white envelope, unsealed, with my mother's name written in handwriting I didn't recognize. It looked official. I pulled it out, and a thin sheet of paper slid halfway out. I should have put it back. I should have left. But I didn't. I unfolded the letter, and my breath stopped. It wasn't from a friend, or a doctor, or anyone familiar. It was from a law firm. A law firm specializing in estates and custody. The letter said, "As per your request, we are preparing the documents to facilitate emergency guardianship should your daughter be deemed unfit to parent." My stomach dropped. Guardianship emergency. It continued. We will finalize once the required evidence of instability is provided. Evidence, instability. The walls around me seemed to tilt. My mother wasn't just spreading rumors. She was building a case. A legal one. And she wanted my baby. I sat down on the floor because my legs couldn't hold me. I reread the letter 3 times, hoping it would change, hoping I misunderstood. But the date on it. The date cut me deeper than the words. It was from before I even told her I was pregnant. She'd been planning something, waiting for me to get pregnant. Why? Why would my mother want custody of a baby that wasn't hers? Unless she thought it should be hers. I didn't understand, not yet, not fully. But the first layer of her plan was clear. She needed me to look mentally unstable. She needed witnesses, rumors, doubt, isolation. She needed Adrian to lose faith. She needed everyone to think I was lying, delusional, unfit. She wanted proof. Proof she could use in court. Still shaking, I put the letter back exactly as I found it, and that's when I heard a sound. Keys. At the door. I scrambled to the living room, grabbing my scarf, pretending I had just arrived. I barely made it before she walked in. "Tessa," she asked, surprised. "You took my scarf," I said, holding it up. "Oh," she smiled. "I thought it was mine." Her eyes flicked to the hallway, checking, assessing. I kept my expression blank. "I'm leaving," I said. Before she could reply, I rushed past her and out the door. I didn't breathe until I was in my car, doors locked, heart pounding. My mother wasn't confused. She wasn't misguided. She wasn't worried. She was plotting to take my baby. And I didn't know why. When I showed the letter to Adrian, he clenched it so hard it tore. "She's insane," he said. "We're getting a lawyer." But we didn't know what we were fighting yet. We didn't know how deep her deception reached. The next week, the attacks escalated. My mother called my boss, told him I was having hallucinations due to pregnancy stress. He pulled me aside at work and asked if I needed leave. She called Adrian's mother again, insisting he wasn't the father. She told my neighbors I had been screaming at invisible people. She even went to my doctor's office, claiming to be my emergency contact, and asked for my mental health records. But the worst was what she posted on Facebook. A long, dramatic paragraph about watching her daughter spiral into delusions. She wrote, "Please pray for Tessa. She believes she is pregnant but refuses to get help." Within hours, 50 comments of sympathy, judgment, advice flooded in. It broke something in me. A part of me wanted to fight publicly. A part of me wanted to scream the truth. But Adrian told me, "Let her dig her own grave. Every lie she posts is evidence. Every rumor is proof she's manufacturing instability." I agreed. But then something else happened, something that made our fear turn into full-blown paranoia. A social worker showed up at our apartment. She knocked softly and said, "I'm here because we received an anonymous report concerning potential prenatal neglect." Anonymous. Anonymous. But the social worker wasn't stupid. She looked uncomfortable. She glanced at the letter Adrian showed her, then at my mother's Facebook posts. "I see what's happening," she murmured. "Document everything, she's building a case." I felt the world tilt again. My own mother had reported me to child services. Not after birth. Now, before I could defend myself, before the baby was even here. Why would a grandmother fight this hard to steal custody? What kind of person does that? That question became my obsession. Because I knew my mother was controlling, manipulative, narcissistic, even cruel. But this was monstrous. 2 days later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. No greeting, no explanation. Just a photo of my mother sitting in a lawyer's office. The message under it said, "She's going through with it." My hands shook as I stared at the image. My mother in her nice blazer, smiling politely at the attorney, preparing to take my child. Adrian insisted on confronting her. I told him no. I told him we needed leverage. We needed evidence. We needed something that proved her intentions beyond rumors. Because a mother claiming concern can win in court. A mother claiming her daughter is unfit can win. A mother spinning a narrative of mental instability can win. But a mother proven to be malicious. That's different. That's when I decided to do something I never imagined myself doing. I decided to confront her on her own turf, alone. To record her, to get her to admit what she was doing, to get her to say why. But what I learned, what she admitted, was worse than anything I had imagined. I confronted her on a Sunday morning. I knew she'd be home. She never missed her Sunday routine, coffee, newspaper, her carefully curated perfect mother image. I knocked. She opened the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Tessa," she said, "I'm glad you're here. She always sounded glad, even when she was stabbing me in the back, especially then. I stepped inside and turned on my phone recorder in my pocket. "I know what you're doing," I said. She blinked innocently. "What do you mean?" "You're trying to take my baby." Her jaw tightened just for a second, but I saw it. "I'm trying to help you," she replied calmly. "You're not well." "Stop it," I snapped. "I found the letter, the guardianship documents." A full 3 seconds passed. And then she exhaled, slow and disappointed. "I knew you would find out eventually," she said, "but I hoped it would be later." My stomach dropped. "You admit it," I whispered. She didn't deny it. She didn't apologize. She didn't even look guilty. Instead, she walked to her kitchen counter, poured herself a glass of water, and said, "You were never meant to be a mother." The room spun. "Why would you say that?" I choked out. "Because it's true," she said simply. "You're unstable, emotional, you don't make good decisions. A child needs someone reliable." "Reliable," I whispered, "like you." She smirked. "Better me than you." I stared at her, at the woman who raised me, and realized I had never known her at all. "What is this really about?" I asked. "Why do you want my child so badly?" She hesitated. And then she said something that made my skin go cold. "Because this baby is my second chance." Second chance for what? But she didn't explain. Not yet. Because before I could press her, she said, "You can't even prove you're pregnant. No one believes you." I took a step forward. "Adrian does." Her smile widened. Not for long. It was then I realized she wasn't just destroying my reputation. She wasn't just trying to take my baby. She wanted Adrian gone. She wanted me isolated, controlled, dependent. Like I had been as a child. But then she said something that chilled me to my core. "You think the DNA test will save you?" Her voice lowered into a soft, poisonous whisper. "It won't matter." "Why?" I asked, backing up instinctively. She tilted her head and said, "Because the baby isn't his." I froze. "She's lying," I told myself. "She's trying to break us." But then she added, "Don't act surprised. You know what you did." I had done nothing, nothing. And she knew that. I whispered, "You're trying to rewrite my life." She nodded as if complimented. "That's the beauty of it," she said. "People believe me. I've spent years making sure of that. You've always been the unstable one. I've always been the strong one. Which story do you think they'll choose?" I couldn't breathe. My mother wasn't trying to prove I was lying. She was trying to erase my truth, rewrite my identity, replace me as a mother. But the question that haunted me most was still unanswered. Why did she need my baby so desperately? She gave me the answer 5 minutes later, in a sentence that detonated everything I thought I knew. I stood in my mother's living room, my heart hammering so loudly I could barely hear my own thoughts. The air between us was thick, poisonous, humming with something old and ugly, something she had been hiding for years. "You think the DNA test will save you," she had said. "It won't matter, because the baby isn't his." Her words echoed in my mind like a scream underwater. "I know what you're doing," I whispered. "You're trying to make Adrian doubt me. You're trying to break us up." She didn't deny it. She just smiled, a slow, satisfied curve of her lips, the kind of smile someone wears when their plan is finally unfolding. "You've always chosen the wrong men," she said casually. "I'm doing you a favor by removing him from your life." Her tone was so calm it made my blood run cold. "And then what?" I asked. "You take my baby." She lifted her chin. "I will raise the baby, properly." Something inside me snapped. Not anger, not yet. Something quieter, darker. A bone-deep dread that told me she wasn't just manipulating me, she was rewriting the entire narrative of my life. "Why?" I whispered. "Why are you doing this?" She paused. For the first time, her facade cracked barely, but enough for me to see something flicker in her eyes. Fear, regret, or maybe obsession. Then she said it. the sentence that became the hinge of everything that followed. Because I won't fail again. Again. My heart stuttered. What do you mean? I asked carefully. She turned her back to me and walked toward the window, staring out as if she were speaking to someone else. A ghost, a memory, a version of herself that never healed. You were never supposed to question me, Tessa, she murmured. You were supposed to listen. Mom, I stepped toward her. What do you mean again? Silence. Until she exhaled, and her breath trembled. Tessa, she said, still facing the window. There was another baby. My stomach dropped. My mouth went dry. Another what? I whispered. She finally turned around, and for the first time in my entire life, she looked old. Not physically, emotionally. Hollowed out, haunted. Before you, she said, there was a baby, a son. I felt the world tilt under my feet. A son, my mother had a child before me, a brother I never knew existed. What? My voice cracked. What happened to him? She didn't blink. He died. 2 words, flat, abrupt, delivered like a weather report, not a tragedy. How? I choked out. Her eyes hardened. Because I trusted the wrong people, because I wasn't careful enough, because I let someone convince me I was the problem. She took a step closer to me. I'll never make that mistake again. I shook my head slowly, as nausea crawled up my throat. So you think taking my baby fixes that? You think this is redemption? She didn't flinch. This is correction, she said firmly. This is control. This is making sure nothing goes wrong this time. My knees weakened. But why lie about my pregnancy? Why try to ruin my life? Why go to court? Why all of this? She sighed deeply, as if I were the one being unreasonable. Because you're not ready to be a mother. You're not strong enough, not stable enough, not disciplined enough. You're just like I was when I lost him. Lost him. The words buried themselves in my skin like needles. Mom, I whispered, what happened to him? For the first time, her eyes shifted, not away, but inward, into a memory she had buried so deep it had warped inside her. It doesn't matter anymore, she said quietly. What matters is that I won't allow history to repeat itself. I stared at her, horror pulsing through my veins. You think taking my baby will bring him back? No, she said simply, but it will correct the mistake. A chill crawled down my spine. She didn't want my baby because she loved it. She wanted my baby because she needed it, as a second chance, a do-over, a chance to prove to herself or the world that she wasn't the failure she believed she was. But Mom, my voice trembled, I'm not you. Yes, she whispered, you are. Her voice was soft, broken, dangerous. I see my younger self in everything you do. The indecision, the fear, the emotional fragility. You're walking the same path I walked, and I refuse to watch another child suffer because its mother was too weak. Something inside me began to burn, slowly, quietly, but unmistakably. So you'll steal my baby instead, I asked, because you've decided I'll be a bad mother. She shook her head. You wouldn't be a bad mother, she said. You'd be a destroyed one, and a destroyed mother raises a destroyed child. A destroyed child. Was that how she saw me? As a mistake, a failure, a damaged product of her own brokenness. Mom, my voice broke, you made me this way. She didn't react. Of course she didn't. Because in her mind, everything wrong with me, any insecurity, any fear, any anxiety, wasn't a result of her behavior. It was evidence that she was right. Evidence she could use against me. Evidence that justified everything she was doing. This isn't love, I whispered. This is obsession. Her eyes sharpened. This is necessary. For who? I demanded. For me, for the baby, or for you? She didn't answer. Because we both knew the truth. It was for her, always for her. She took a step closer, very slowly, like she was approaching a frightened animal. Listen to me, Tessa, she said in a low, calm voice. Once the baby is born, things will make sense. You'll understand. You'll see that I'm right. And when the court sees you're overwhelmed or unstable or confused." She smiled, small and certain. "They will do what is best for the child." I took a step back. She took another step forward. "Mom, stop," I whispered. "You can fight me," she said gently. "I expect you to, but the truth is, everyone already believes me." "I don't," I said, but my voice was thin. She laughed softly. "You will." That was the moment, that was the exact moment, when I realized my mother wasn't just controlling. She was unwell. Her grief, her guilt, her need for redemption had twisted into something predatory. She didn't want to steal my baby to save it. She wanted to steal my baby to save herself. And she was willing to destroy me to do it. I left her house, shaking so violently I could barely open the car door. Adrian saw my face and jumped out, rushing to me. "What did she do? What did she say?" he asked, grabbing my shoulders. I couldn't speak. Not immediately. Because speaking the truth out loud meant admitting the impossible. "My mother wants to take our baby," I whispered finally, "and she's willing to make the world think I'm insane to do it." Adrian pulled me close, but I barely felt it. My mother's words echoed in my skull. "I won't fail again. This baby is my second chance. You were never meant to be a mother. You are me." When we got home, I collapsed on the couch and cried until my chest hurt. Adrian sat beside me, gripping my hand, his jaw clenched. "Whatever she told you," he said, "it's a lie. She's manipulating you." "No," I whispered. "She's planning something bigger than rumors." He grabbed his laptop, then we planned too. We started documenting everything: messages, dates, conversations, screenshots. We saved her Facebook post. We saved recordings. We saved texts. We gathered witness statements from friends and neighbors. But the entire time, I felt a cold certainty settle into my bones. This wasn't going to be enough. My mother wasn't acting out of hate. She was acting out of mission. A twisted, obsessive mission to rewrite her past by rewriting my future. And then, just as we thought things couldn't get worse, something arrived in the mail that changed everything. It wasn't a court document. It wasn't another anonymous report. It wasn't a threat. It was a photograph. A photograph of a newborn baby. A baby boy. Wrapped in a hospital blanket. A baby I had never seen. On the back of the photo, written in my mother's handwriting, were 5 words. "This is the one I lost." But the date stamped on the photo. It made my blood turn to ice. The baby hadn't been born before me. He'd been born after me. Meaning her story wasn't just twisted. It was a lie. A lie hiding something much darker. And that secret, the real truth about the baby she lost. I used to think the scariest sound in the world was silence. I was wrong. The scariest sound is your own heartbeat when the truth is seconds away from detonating. When everything you believed about your family, your identity, your childhood, your existence, is balancing on the edge of a needle. That was the sound filling the room the day the DNA test results arrived. I wasn't alone. Eli was beside me, hands steady around mine, even though I could feel the tremor he was trying to hide. My cousin Lena paced behind the couch, muttering curses under her breath like she was warming up for a fight. And my mother, she stood in the doorway, frozen, pale, shaking so subtly only someone who knew her as deeply as I did could see it. Dad was just behind her, confused and trying to pretend he had any idea what was happening. I opened my phone. The email was there. "Your DNA results are ready." My mother took a step forward. "Tessa, don't," her voice cracked. "You don't understand what you're doing." I lifted my eyes. "Oh, I understand perfectly," I whispered. "For once in my life, you're not controlling the narrative. I'm done believing your stories. This time I get the truth from science." She grabbed my arm, hard, but Lena got between us so fast my mother stumbled backward. "Touch her again," Lena hissed, "and I swear I'll make you regret it." Mom backed away, clutching her hands to her chest like the victim in a play she'd written herself. Dad frowned. "Honey, why are you acting like—" "Because she knows," I cut in. "She knows what's coming." My thumb hovered over the screen. I tapped. The email opened. The report loaded. And the world stopped. The first thing my eyes landed on was a line highlighted in yellow. Probability of maternity, 0%. My breath left my lungs in one violent punch. I heard Eli whisper, "Oh my God," under his breath. Lena slammed her hand against her mouth. Mom took a step backward like she'd been shot. Dad blinked. What does that mean?" I looked up, and my voice came out as a rasp. "It means she's not my mother." The silence that followed was explosive, sharp, painful. Dad shook his head. "That can't be right. That's impossible." "But Mom—" She didn't deny it. She just closed her eyes. And cried. Except it wasn't grief. It was relief. I saw it. A twisted kind of relief that comes when a secret finally stops being heavy enough to crush you. But at the same time, she was terrified. Because relief doesn't erase consequences. I didn't scream. I didn't fall apart. I didn't collapse or throw anything or beg her to tell me it was wrong. I just stared at her. "Tessa," she whispered, please sit down." "No," I said, my voice razor sharp. "You talk from there, and you tell me everything, every secret, every lie, every plan." She wiped her face with trembling hands. "Let me explain." "You'd better start," Lena snapped, "because the next words out of your mouth decide whether I walk out of here or burn this whole house down." Mom swallowed hard, stepping back until she hit the wall. "I didn't steal you," she said quietly. "Not exactly." "What does that mean?" I demanded. She looked at Dad, then at me, then down at her hands like the story was sitting right there in her palms. "It was an arrangement," she whispered. Something deep in my stomach twisted. "What arrangement?" "When you were born," her voice wobbled, "your biological mother couldn't keep you. She was young, alone, sick. She didn't want you in the system. She wanted you safe." Dad stared at her in horror. "You told me she died." "She did," Mom snapped, then corrected herself with a trembling breath. "Just not right away. She died a few months later, and before she did, she signed the papers. I was supposed to tell you when Tessa turned 18, but You lied to Dad for decades," I whispered. She looked sick. "I was afraid if he knew the truth, he'd look at you differently, that he wouldn't love you the same." Dad took a step back like she'd physically pushed him. "Anne, you hid this from me." She burst into tears. "I didn't want to lose my family." "But you did," I snapped, the words slicing out of me. "You just didn't expect it to happen like this." She grabbed for me again, sobbing. "Tessa, you are my daughter, in every way that matters." "No," I said. "I'm the daughter you constructed, not the daughter you told the truth to." Her mouth opened and closed like she couldn't breathe. But I wasn't done. "You told everyone I faked my pregnancy," I said. "You tried to destroy my credibility. You tried to make me look crazy. Why? Why would you do that unless you were protecting something bigger?" She froze. Completely. And that was the moment I knew. There was more. Much more. And much darker. She whispered, "I didn't want history repeating." "What history?" "Tessa," her face crumbled. "Your biological mother didn't give you up willingly." My heart stopped. "What?" Lena stepped closer. "What are you saying?" Mom's voice cracked into a confession that changed everything I thought I knew. "She was pressured," Mom whispered. "Not by us, by someone else. Someone who didn't want her raising a baby on her own. Someone who wanted you out of her life." "Who?" I breathed. Mom closed her eyes. "Her parents." My mind reeled. "My grandparents." She nodded miserably. "They gave you to me. They arranged the adoption behind her back. They told her it was better for you. They told her she wasn't fit. And by the time she found out what they'd done, she couldn't get you back. My chest tightened until I felt like I was breathing through broken glass. So you lied, I whispered. You lied because you were afraid that if I got pregnant and my biological family found me, everything would come out. You lied because you thought I was losing control like she did. You lied because the truth would expose what you were a part of. Tessa. No, I shouted, tears finally breaking through. You didn't protect me. You protected your image. You protected a story you built on another woman's pain. You protected a lie. She sank to the floor, sobbing. Dad stood frozen, silent, destroyed. Eli came behind me, arms wrapping around my trembling shoulders. Lena whispered, "Baby, I'm so sorry." But I didn't crumble. Because beneath all the heartbreak, I felt clarity. Sharp, cold, final. This was the moment my mother's plan collapsed. This was the moment every rumor, every manipulation, every gaslight shattered. This was the moment her power over me ended. Mom crawled toward me on her knees, reaching for my hands. Tessa, please, please, I raised you, I loved you, I did everything for you. I gently pulled my hands away. No, I whispered. You raised a daughter you kept in the dark, and you loved a version of me that didn't know the truth. Her breathing broke. You're my little girl. I shook my head slowly. I'm someone else's little girl, and you took that from her. She let out a sound I'll never forget, a sound of a woman realizing she lost something she can never get back. I stood. Eli stood with me. Lena grabbed my bag and shoved it into my hands. I looked at Mom one last time. You wanted to control my story, I said, but you never understood me. I don't run from truth, I face it, and this time, I'm not facing it with you. She sobbed harder. Tessa, please. I turned away and walked out the door. I later found my biological mother's medical records, the truth of her death, the way she fought for me in the end. I visited her grave. I told her everything. Her name was Mariel. She was real, she was kind, she was strong, she deserved better. And I told her the words I wished she could have heard when she was alive. I know who I am now, and I will honor you. Eli proposed again, this time with tears in his eyes, telling me, You're the strongest woman I've ever known. Lena became my fiercest protector. Dad, after months of therapy, heartbreak, and clarity, apologized for not questioning the lies he lived inside. And my mother. She reached out more than once, but I never answered. Because forgiveness requires truth, and trust requires honesty. And she gave me neither. My story didn't end with a broken family. It ended with a rebuilt identity, a reclaimed truth, and a future free from the shadows of someone else's secrets. Because the DNA test didn't just expose her plan. It exposed me. The real me. The one who finally stepped into the light and never looked back.